Greetings, everybody. I just wanted to make a quick video. This is your instructor, Brett Abdullah for CIS111. I normally would make a video of our Tuesday online class, but I didn't because we also went over chapters 1 and 2. And today I just wanted to go over chapter 3 and make a video for that. So let me share out my screen. And we're going to just make a quick video. I'm also going to show you a few things in Moodle. So as you see, we are now in your Moodle screen, and both my classes will get access to this video. Currently, I have CIS 111-02, section 02, and section 03. Section 03, if you are in section 03, you are expected to be in person on campus for class. Now, if you can't make it, you can watch a video. We can make other arrangements. But you are by default expected to be in person in class. You'll see two links here. One will be for Zoom. For my online class, they will always use this to go to class, this link. But I also put it in my 03 section because we may need to meet, and this is the way that we can meet. Also, I would not oppose you joining our Tuesday morning class between 10 a.m. and noon. This is my YouTube channel. This is where all the videos will be. It's pretty clean right now, but I will be putting videos out there throughout the semester. Just like I said, I will be recording all the classes for my morning session. Okay. So there's a couple things we're going over this week. We've already went over chapters 1 and 2 for the student lecture notes. But now I wanted to go over the student lecture notes for chapter 3. So let's go ahead and bring those up. And we're going to walk through this as we go. First thing to know is that like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of SQL. And you can see that our SQL statements have 4 different areas. They have for a select statement, they have a select area, a from area, and then optionally a where and order by. Even the from is optional because you could just select a get date, for example. And so these 4 sections are highly used. The select tells you what columns you want. If you use an asterisk like down here, it'll give you all the columns. The from is where you list your table, or as we get into chapter 4 and beyond, tables using something called a join. The where clause is where you filter what data you want using ands and ors and things of that nature. And then finally, the order by. This is a way of ordering your data, sorting your data. You could sort it by different columns, and then you can choose whether to sort that column ascending or descending order. All right. So, and then as we go through, you're going to see that we have the ability to select all the columns, individual columns. We can create aliases for a column. We can do calculations and make a calculated column, a derived column that we develop. We can do concatenation of strings, and we can even put in literals such as this is a test, and make our own column names. We will also have the ability to use functions, and this will be later on in the course. So example 1, and we're going to walk through some of these examples. We want to do a select asterisk from invoice. So let's go ahead and bring up SQL Server. Hopefully all of you have loaded SQL Server at this time. And I believe that we are going to be in the AP database. So let's go ahead and bring that up, and we can take a look at that. And like I told you, we can we can bring up the GUI, but for this point, we're going to just make our own query. So let's go ahead and make a query here. First thing is we want to make sure we're in the right database. And I'll show you the way to look at that. We are not in the right database. By default, you're going to be in the master database. This is where all the system tables are. But we want to go into accounts payable database. So CIS111 underscore AP. That's one way to do that. You can also do something called a use statement if you want to switch to whatever database you may want. And you can see the IntelliSync will help you through to make your statements. Let's go ahead and run this. So anytime we have a statement, we can execute it. You can optionally put a semicolon after every statement. It will not affect the running of your SQL. Okay. And what we want to do here is we want to select everything from invoices. So let's do that. Okay, and again, IntelliSync kicks in. And we run this, we can execute this, and it will do that. We also can optionally just highlight this part of code that we do want to execute. In this case, we'll have the same effect. Now, one of the things I tend to do is I tend to put things on each part of the select statement on a different line. Again, it doesn't affect the operation of SQL. It just makes your code more readable. And that will be something I'll be looking at. All right. So that's where we start off with. But now let's say we wanted just to look at 3 different columns. Let's say invoice ID, invoice date, and invoice total. We can do this. And we would highlight this and we would execute it, and it would only give us 3 columns. Okay. We can still use the asterisk if we want. And we'll be repeating some columns. Okay. But this is a way to do that. Now, another thing I do sometimes is I will put each column on its own line. In this case, I wouldn't do that. But let's say I wanted to do something with to see how much is still owed on my invoice. I could do something like we could do invoice total minus payment total and what we're going to do is we're going to name this column, because if we don't name it, it'll give it its own name. So let's just go ahead and try that without that. Okay, the no name column we don't want. But let's say we want to name this column. Let's call it still you. I don't like spaces in my variables name, so let's just do that. And let's go ahead and run that. And this is a derived column that we named still due. It could have been still old, might not have been the best of names, but you get the picture there. Okay. All right. So there's 2 ways to name columns. We could have done either or, for example. Let's go back to SQL. So I could have did it this way. And another way to name a column is just to do equals. I'll show you this. Okay, so we'll just call it still do 2. Okay, and this time we'll do this, and it will work exactly the same. Okay. And by the way, notice how the red goes away. That's how you know you have a problem, is when there's red, whether it's up here or down here. Okay. So as you can see, that's working just fine. All right. So go back to our notes. You're going to have characters that you can use, characters that you can't use, characters that have to be used in specific positions. Okay. And you just need to understand that, and you will definitely get an error if you don't. Underscores are always a good thing to use. Hyphens, $, things of that nature, maybe not so much. But and the @ and the pound sign or the hashtag, these are used for specific purposes. Okay, and we will be going over that later in our classes. Just be aware of that. You also have to be aware of how to use apostrophes. Okay, and I'm going to we'll try to put another select statement into our code, and we're going to try this. Okay, so let's go back to SQL. And by the way, my only suggestion is you name columns whatever way you decide to do it. Be consistent. I do it this way. And by the way, you don't need to as. You can, it's up to you. If it's strictly there for more readability. Okay. All right. So now let's take a look at the vendors table. And usually what you'll see me do is if I don't know what I want, I will start off with asterisk, right? And this will tell me what all the information I need to know. Okay. Now notice I had 2 display windows here. That's because I didn't highlight this. If I highlight it, I will only get 1 display window because it's only executing this code. Okay. So, let's say I wanted to get the vendor's address. I would do something like this. And let's say I wanted the vendor name. So we could do this, and we want the vendor's address, right? We'll just say address 1 in this case. Okay. Again, I'm going to put this on separate lines. A lot of times you'll see me use a comma. Just bring the comma over. So let's go ahead and run this and see what this looks like. Okay. But let's say I wanted to tell you that whose address this was. This is where I may use I need to use an apostrophe. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the apostrophe in. And the way you do that is you have to put it in 3 times, basically. The first one actually tells you that the next one is you really want the apostrophe. And then we're going to put the rest of that in. Okay. Let's go ahead and try that and see what it looks like. Good thing about SQL is you can run it over and over and see how it puts the apostrophe in there. So, and if I wanted to add address in here, I could easily do that. Okay. All right, so I could have done something like that. And by the way, you use a plus sign for concatenation. Okay. All right. So if I wanted to add more onto this, let's say I want the city, and that'll start with a V. And then I wanted the comma. State plus plus zip code. Okay. And this should run. We'll have everything. Notice how I didn't name the column anything. I could put as address. It may not let me use that because it put it in blue. Let's see if it'll work. Yeah, it worked. Okay. So anyways, this is the way you can do that. Notice how it's not really space sensitive in this case. I could put the space in there, it'll run just fine. Right, so that's how you do some concatenation. That's how you use the apostrophe if you want it. Whenever I forget to use apostrophe, I use a function called character. Character 39 is the apostrophe, by the way. All right, so let's go back to our select statement. We could put get date in there. Notice how you get date is today's date and time. That's important to know. We can calculate the age of the invoice by subtracting today's date from the date of the invoice date. Okay, so just look at that. Again, all your stuff, all your multiplication, division. This is Moodle. This what this returns is the remainder in the integer form, the plus sign, the minus sign, and of course they go in this order. Okay. Now we're going to try using the from clause, and again you can use. I think the from clause, the thing you need to immediately be aware of is that we can make an alias for the table. Now, while it might not seem that big for one table because we don't have to put that in front of it, it becomes real important when you have many tables because you don't want to be writing invoices all the time. You just put INV. Let's quickly go over that, and then we're going to take a look at the where clause, okay? So let's go back to SQL. And so we can do that, and it'll work just fine, okay? Now, when you have multiple tables in your from clause, you have to identify from what table it's coming from when the column may be in two of your tables because SQL will not know which one to use. Okay, so no big deal there. I also could use invoices. Of course, this won't work because I've renamed it to INV. Now, I didn't do it into here. It's still named the same here. But while I execute this statement, I no longer have an invoices table. I have an INV. So that's why that doesn't work. Once I get rid of that, I'm back to normal. Or if I get rid of this and I put invoices, works. Okay. All right. Now the where clause, the where clause. We can do different things with the where clause. Okay. For example, let's say we wanted to see all the invoices with a payment total that's greater than 0. Okay. So that means people still owe us money. Okay. So let me just get rid of one of these columns here so we don't get all mixed up. And what I can't do is this, where still due is greater than 0. The only place you can use aliases for column names is in the order by clause, and I'll show you that shortly. But we have to actually put this whole formula in there. Okay. And if we execute this, this gives us all the invoices still due. Okay. And again, you can use a combination of these things. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put in an order by clause. And we're going to do invoice date. Okay. And it puts it in the date order. Now we can also check for dates. Now notice that it is displaying the time, but all the times are midnight. So that's good. But let's say we wanted to check all the invoices from March 10th through March 31st. We could do something like this. And invoice date. Let's say we'll do everyone in March. It's greater than, sorry. Now, I'm really putting in a string here, okay? But SQL Server is smart enough to convert this for us. So we should be all right, okay? We're going to get into functions that actually convert from one type to another later on in the class. Less than, and in this case, equal to 03/31/2016. And this should give us everything in March. Okay. And yes, I know I see the red. So we have to change the red and we're good. All right. So we go ahead and run this. And it gives us everything in March. Now, if we didn't have the equals, we would only return 10 rows. Okay, so we have to have the equal sign in there. Okay, so now, in the same thing for if we started at the 10th, we would need the equal sign there. Or we're going to be missing a row. Okay, so, but an easier way to do this, we could say use the between verb, where invoice date between So let's go ahead and run this. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you something. This between is inclusive. So now we're going to get all the rows because it says where the invoice date is equal to or greater than 3/10/2016 and less than or equal to 3/31/2016. So that's a between clause. Okay. Now, another thing that we can do is we can also use ors. Okay. And let's go ahead and try to use an or here. We're going to do the vendor this time. Okay. Let's say we want all the addresses where address, no, let's do vendor state is equal to, say, MI or vendor state equal to, let's say, Ohio, or vendor state equal to, let's say, California. Okay, so that's your or statement. So we can do that. And if we look, we're going to see, we see Michigan, we see California, we see Ohio. Okay, returns 85 rows. I always look at how many rows I'm returning down here. You can also see at the very end of the statement too. Okay, now there is an easier way to do this, and that's using the end verb in IN. Let me show you how that one works. Okay, and by the way, one way to comment out statements is by using hyphen. Okay, and when you see green, it means it's commented out. So we can use the in clause. Okay, where vendor state in, and then we have to use parentheses and commas, and you're actually putting in a list here. Okay, and this is a lot more easy to do. This is a way of writing an or clause in much more shorthand. Get used to using this. This makes your life a lot easier. Okay, I see in my other classes people didn't like to use this, so but get used to using it. It's highly used in the real world. Okay, we're still returning 85 rows. All right. So let's go back to our notes. So we did all this, went through that. We used the in clause, we used the between clause. Date comparisons, again, you just got to be careful with these dates. By default, it's going to be 00. The time's going to be midnight, which this is right here. Okay. But when you actually put in a date, it's going to put the actual time that's put into. Another phrase that we need to know is the like. The like is, again, highly used. And what you're going to do here, you're going to be using the pound sign symbol quite a bit. Okay. And we see some of the different ways to do that. Okay. You're going to be doing a lot of this and some of this. Okay. And let me just show you how that works, because this is a very important verb to use in the where clause. By the way, these are how you do all your Google searches. Okay. So, so let's, we're going to leave this in, and we're going to do an and we're going to do and vendor like. You have to put it in single quotes again because we're looking at a string. Let's say where a city starts with. Let's try F. How's that sound? And then you put in the pound sign. Let's go ahead and highlight this and execute it. And we're down to 41 rows. Okay. Fresno. Okay. So that's what we're doing now. I want to put a space in here so I can read it better. Amen. All right. So you can use a like as well as it'll be part of your where clause. It'll be in this case an and condition. It could be an or condition if we want to. We could do or. We're going to get more rows when we do an or. Okay. So this is saying, give me every vendor that's either in Michigan, Ohio, or California, or in addition to, not in addition, but or has a city that starts with F. And that's why we now have 88 rows, not 41, not 85. All right. Now, the other thing that you can do with this, you can say, you can look at every, you can put a pound sign in the beginning and say give me all the cities that have an F in it. Or let's make it a little bit more interesting, right? Let's say an FR. So you can put an FR. And we know San Francisco has that, so at least we'll have one. And Fresno has that. San Francisco. Columbus, Ohio's in there mainly because it's Columbus, it's in Ohio. Okay. But San Francisco's in there. So if we did an and, I'm kind of interested. We just did and how many cities would we get back? 45. Pretty good. So that's they're all Fresno or San Francisco. San Francisco, Fresno. Okay. Anyways, that's how you can use the like. Learn this command. It's very important. All right. Go back to our notes. And again, you can use the not. You know, it's just going to do the opposite. Okay. Read this over, understand this. Okay. The other thing we'll have to use is the null. We have to work with nulls. Okay. Let's take a quick look at that. Okay. Go back to SQL here. So let's say we wanted to comment all this stuff out. Okay. Let's say we wanted all the addresses. We're only looking at address 1, but let's take a look at address 2 also. Okay. So we're going to look at address 2 here. And what you're going to see is you're going to see nulls. Now, the interesting thing about null, it doesn't mean blank, it doesn't mean empty, it means nothing or nada. Okay? And we see some addresses in address 1 that are nulls. We see a whole bunch in address 2 that are null. Okay. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if it's null here, and you try to add a null to a string, it's going to just return null, even if there's a city and state in there. But let's take a look how we can use a where clause with nulls. Let's look at vendor address 2. We don't use equals here. We use is null. Okay. And let's highlight and execute this. Right now we have 122 rows, and out of that, we're going to have 103 rows. Okay, and they're all null. And again, you can, maybe you want to see the ones that are not null. Maybe you want to see who does have an address 2 entered in. So you can put not. And you should get, in this case, 19 rows. Right? Okay. Get my addition. So these are all the people that do have something entered into address 2. Again, you need to follow these logical operators. You've seen them before. And you can try these on your own. Now the order by clause, okay? So there's different things that we can do with the order by clause. You can do an order by one column. You can order by that column in descending order, by default ascending order. You can order a combination of columns. It'll sort it by state, then by city, and then by vendor name. You can do address, and I'm going to explain that. You can also concatenate a value within your order by. Again, the order by is optional. If you don't use it, it's going to just return it in the order that it received the data. Okay? That's all you need to know about that. Let's go ahead and try a few. In this case, let's order by, you can do an order by even vendor state, then vendor city. Okay. And just for the fun of it, we're going to make this a little bit more readable. Okay, we'll leave that field in there, but let's put these over here. And let's put state first. Yeah, I know, I still get the address in there, but I think it's important to see how that works, right? Trying to see why that's red, but let's go ahead and try running it. Vendor state, did I do wrong? I must have spelled it. Oh, I forgot to order by. That's why it's that. This red really does help you out. Okay, so we see we're going in order and then order by city after that. Okay, we can do city state one way and then city a different way. Okay, so we can do this. Okay. Now the other thing you need to know is that unlike using aliases in your where clause, you can use aliases in your order by clause, because in theory, the SQL statement is already run, and now it just needs to know how to sort it. So we can use this here. Okay. Let's go ahead and run this. And you can see it's in order. We can also do descending, and that will be in order also. Let's don't worry about the offset, 0 rows, and the fetch 5 rows only. Won't be on the test. Okay. The other thing that we need to know is distinct and top. By default, whenever we do use a GUI and we do a select statement, it's going to put it in a top 100. And basically what that means is it wants to do the top 100%. Okay. And I'll show you that right quick. Okay. Go back to SQL. And by the way, the top is according to this order by, and that can be very helpful. And I'll show you that. I mean, it's that. So let's take a look at this. So the top 5 rows. So let's say we want just the top 5 of these. Let's go ahead and put that in. And let's run this and give us our people that we should be really bugging for money. Okay. So this is really by default the top 5 rows. If we do the top 5%, well, it only gives us 1 row. Okay. So if by default, if I want to look at all the invoices and I do a select, it gives me the top 1,000 rows. Okay. Because we only have 114 rows, we don't need this in there. We could take it out, it'll be exactly the same. Okay. So by default, SQL is going to give you that when you try to use the GUI. Okay. So that's what you need to know. All right. So notice how I have multiple select statements in here. And this is kind of how you're going to do your homework. Oh, let me show you distinct also. I do want to show you distinct. Let's do a select. This is very helpful for creating lists. Okay. And we'll do from vendors. Okay. And we'll just do order by. And let's see what happens here. Well, we get all the states. Okay. If you use distinct, it will only give you unique values of vendor state. Okay. And this is helpful for creating lists. Okay. So we're down to 22 rows. It can also be used for with city. Okay. should get more rows because we're going to be looking at multiple cities. So 53, but again, it is just every distinct row is here. If we didn't have distinct in here, just take it out, we would get more than 53 rows, I believe. Okay. Yes, 122. We get every combination. Okay. So you want, if you use distinct, it's going to give you each distinct row. All right. So it goes for the whole row that's returned. All right. So that's really chapter 3 in a nutshell. The other thing I do want to show you right quick is the database diagram. Okay. This is your typical diagram that's generated. I want to show you how to do that. So what we do is so we go into a database, all right? So let me just, and we're going to go here, database diagram. Now we currently don't have any, okay? And it asks you if you want to create one. The other way you can create one is you just right click on database diagram and say new database diagram. And you say yes. Okay, and it gives you all the tables. Okay, if I could expand it, give you all the tables. You could select them all, but in our case, let's just select invoice using a control key vendors, and we're going to add them. Put them in a nice order. We can close this, and we get that line that goes from invoices to vendors. Okay, so, and again, what this sign means, it means how they're connected. In this case, we'll look at the properties. They are connected this way. The primary key is in vendors, the vendors table, and the primary key column is vendor ID. You can see that with the key, and you can see that with the key here. The foreign table is invoices, and the foreign key, once again, is a vendor ID. These do not have to be the same, but they are in this case. And this basically means a one-to-many. This 8 is really the sign for infinity. So you can have, one vendor can have one-to-many or zero-to-many invoices, okay? And so this is an easy way to not only create relationships, but also see the existing ones that are already in place. And in this class, most of them are going to be in place. You will have to make one relationship, but that's really a lot later in class. Okay, so that's what I got. Now, let me close this down if I wish I could see it. Yeah, we'll just do this. Okay, so what you have to do now is you're going to do our practice lab. Okay, so let's go back to the class, and you are going to turn into me a practice lab that's due, whoops, let me modify that. It's actually due Tuesday. I don't want anybody saying that, hey, you put Thursday the 17th. Let's go back to that. So we're going to edit that, and you don't need, of course, don't need to know this, but okay. So what you do is you bring up the practice lab, and That's a bunch of story problems. And then you're going to return this back to me, not this. What you're going to do is you're going to write a select statement. Okay. You're going to write a select statement that does a select of product code, product name, list price, discount percent, then run the statement, make sure it works correctly, add an order by clause that does a sort by this price in descending order sequence. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to, there should be about, I think, 10 problems, no, 6 problems. By the way, you don't have to do the data diagram, just I put it there for you. And this, of course, will be worth 10 points. And how you do this is you're going to go into SQL Server. You're going to do all the problems. You're going to tell me, for example, let's say this is query 1. You're going to do something like this, query 1. And then you're going to write the statement. And then you're going to put query 2 and write the statement. And then you're going to do a save as. This is going to save under your documents directory folder, and that's fine. But I want you to name it a specific way. So I want to show you this. You're going to name it not SQL query 1. You're going to name it your last name, first name, and then practice lab chapter 3. Okay. Something I know that's it's you and it's your practice lab. So in my case, it would be Abdullah. Better spell my name right. Brett, and then you can do underscore PL for practice lab chapter 3. Okay, and it's going to name it as an SQL file. It's going to put it under your document in this SQL Server Management Studio. And you're going to save it. And then you're going to go to that directory. And it should be there. So let me go there. And then go to SQL Server Manager Studio. That's by default. And we see it right there. And then you're going to just email it back to me. Okay. Thought I had email open, but very simple. So I'm going to create a new email. All right, so I create a new email. Basically, I'm going to send it to me. That's me. Let me say PL3, whatever, I don't care. And then you're going to simply drag and drop into your email and send to me. And then I will have it. And if I don't have it, I'll let you know. Now, these are all due before class on Tuesday. All right. All right. So that's what I got for you today. I hope this helps. I don't know why my video's screwing up, but see you in class. Talk to you later.